cooling happens in the second orbit. That's when you burn the engines, and this is what's going to start to bring you back down to Earth, because the only reason you're staying in orbit is because you've achieved 25 times the speed of sound, and the only way to come home is to put the brakes on. So we turn the spacecraft around and burn the engine in the direction of travel, and that slows us down. But that engine burn has to be very, very accurate. If you burn for too long, you're going to come in too steep, and that could risk damage to the spacecraft, possibly burning up. And if you don't burn for long enough, you're not going to come back. You're going to go through the upper layers of the atmosphere and back out into space. So we're very cautious when we start the engine on a rocket, or a spacecraft rather, that has been in space for 6 months. It's a bit like starting a car after a long cold winter and just hoping that it's going to work okay. My job was to do all the mental arithmetic to work out how long to burn the thrusters for if the primary engine didn't work. So having got my D in maths at school, I'm always amazed that task fell on my hands. But thankfully the engine burn went well, and we are then set on a course for coming back to Earth. The next thing that happens in the scheme of things is separation. So the spacecraft is in 3 parts, but only the descent module is going to come back to Earth. The other 2 modules will burn up in the atmosphere. So the spacecraft separates itself, which is quite an explosive event, pyrotechnic bolts going off, blowing the spacecraft into 3 chunks. And then from that moment onwards, the descent module, where the 3 crew members are sat, is pretty much out of control, just tumbling end over end, waiting for the Earth's atmosphere to pick up the spacecraft and right it in the correct direction, heat shield first. Looking out the window at that point is quite unnerving, because you're seeing the Earth going over and over as you're tumbling, and it's also only about 150, 200 kilometers beneath you. You've been used to seeing the Earth from up at 400 kilometers, so it suddenly feels very, very close, and you're very aware that you're just falling like a brick. And the whole re-entry takes about 8 minutes, and during that time, a ball of plasma will be forming around the spacecraft, gets up to 1700 Celsius outside, so extremely hot outside, and you're very, very hot inside because there's no air conditioning. You're simply recirculating the same air and trying to get some airflow through your suit. And then just when you think that's finished and done with, the parachutes open. We're still going just over the speed of sound at this point, so when braking parachutes come out, it's very, very violent, and the spacecraft is flung around underneath these parachutes, and that lasts for about 20 seconds until we get a big jolt of the main canopy opening, and then 15 minutes before we impact with the